What? Are you serious? Wow. Grab a Bible. Hurry. What? Yes. Zechariah chapter 14. Get a cup of coffee if you have one, or tea. And let me share with you something. There's some powerful information. First of all, seismologists studying fault lines around the world have discovered something. Look at this. I want to thank Reverend Gary. I want to thank Troy. I want to thank Stephen of Oklahoma and several others. But this is very good information. Mount of Olives. There is an earthquake fault line that goes directly under the Mount of Olives. Get this. Scientists have discovered that one of the largest tectonic plate fault lines on the earth is in the area of the Jordan Valley. After an extensive study, it was discovered that there was a large fracture in the earth running right through the middle of the Mount of Olives from east to west. Well, listen to what the Bible says in Zechariah 14. Behold, this is 3,000 years ago, before anybody could figure out what a seismologist was. They didn't know what a cardiologist was. They didn't know what an ophthalmologist was. They definitely couldn't figure out a fault line was underneath the Mount of Olives. But listen to this. Zechariah prophesied it as the Spirit of the Lord moved upon him. He says, Behold, the day of the Lord cometh, and thy spoil shall be divided in the midst of thee. For I will gather all nations against Jerusalem to battle, and the city shall be taken. Now you're going to say, well, Pastor, this has already happened. No, it hasn't. Hang on. I know that Jerusalem has been taken about 14 different times in history, whether it be the Turks, the Babylonian Empire, the Roman Empire, the Ottoman Empire, the Crusaders. Back and forth, back and forth. But listen to this. For I will gather all nations against Jerusalem to battle, and the city shall be taken, and the houses rifled, and the women ravished, and half of the city shall go forth into captivity, and the residue of the people shall not be cut off from the city. Then shall the Lord go forth and fight against those nations as when he fought in the day of battle. And you can read about Jesus' references to this in Matthew 24, verse 28. Also read in Revelation chapter 19, verse 17. Listen to this. And his feet, talk about God, Jesus' feet shall stand. The Lord his feet shall stand in that day upon the Mount of Olives, which is before Jerusalem on the east. And the Mount of Olives shall cleave in the midst thereof toward the east and toward the west, which is where that fault line is. Get this. And there shall be a very great valley, and half of the mountain and shall remove toward the north, and half of it toward the south. There is going to be a massive earthquake splitting the Mount of Olives in half. That has not happened yet. And it's the direct result of the Lord return, standing on the Mount of Olives, splitting the mountain in half, and defeating the enemies who have come against the city of Jerusalem. Folks, and I'm going to be in Jerusalem, Lord willing, in just a few days, and I will go to the Mount of Olives. I will stand there and look across the valley toward the beautiful gate, or what's known as the Eastern Gate. And I'll stand there and begin to teach and preach from this very spot, trying to help people understand just how close things are getting. Well, you have scientists now that are saying, I remember when I was at the Mount of Olives back in 1996, I remember standing there looking at the beautiful holy city thinking, dear Lord, he's coming. But folks, let me tell you, 17 years later, I'm going back, I realize just how much closer we are to the coming King. Are you serious? What? Are you saved? Scientists now have identified the fact that one of the largest tectonic plate fault lines in the world goes right underneath the Mount of Olives. Wow. Biblical prophecies taking place. Now you might say, well, earthquakes are not something I'm too worried about. I don't see where that's important. Jesus mentions earthquakes as one of the signs of his coming in the end of the world in Matthew 24. And it's all through Revelation. It's all through the Bible. Earthquakes are used. And speaking of earthquakes, today, in the last 24 hours, I want to thank you, Troy, of North Carolina, for getting this report to me. There's been a 4.3 earthquake in Indonesia, a 5.8 in the Fiji Islands, a 4.5 Indonesia, 4.6 Indonesia, 4.7 Indonesia, 3.7 California, 4.7 Solomon Islands, 5.1 Solomon Islands, 4.4 Iran, 4.7 Japan, 4.6 the Fiji Islands again, 4.5 Alaska, 4.4 Burma, 4.9 Thailand, 5.1 Indonesia again, 4.0 New Zealand, 4.6 the Fiji Islands, 4.8 Russia, and several other smaller quakes that would be under 4. There's unbelievable activity today, and Jesus said there would be wars and rumors of wars. He said there would be false Christs shall rise and shall deceive many. And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that you be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. For nation shall rise against nation, kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines and pestilence and earthquakes in divers places. And all of these are the beginning of sorrow. And then many Christians are going to be persecuted. Well, let me share with you just a few persecutions in the last, I could go on, but I'll start right here. Back on March the 23rd in Egypt, the Muslim Brotherhood cadres abducted a Christian and took him into a mosque and brutally tortured him. In Somalia, a Christian convert was jailed and tortured for leaving Islam on March 23rd. On March 24th, in Ohio, America, a man carrying a Quran, a Muslim convert, walked into a church service with a Quran and gunned down his Christian father while praising Allah in a Christian church in Ohio. Also, on March 26th, there were some militias that attacked a Christian village, hacking and shooting 36 people to death in Nigeria. Also in Nigeria, on March 28th, 9 Christians are machine gunned during a Muslim raid in their village. On March 31st, Muslim nomads in Nigeria attacked a Christian village, butchering 19 people, including women and children. April 3rd, in Pakistan, 18 Christians are injured by a Muslim mob, whipped into a frenzy by a Muslim cleric. April 3rd, Tanzania, 2 Christians are murdered by Muslim extremists for selling non-sacrificed to Islam meat. April 4th, Pakistan, a 20-year-old Christian is shot in the head by Muslims, calling their religion supreme. April 6th, Egypt, angry Muslims torch a church and kill 7 Christians. April 7th, Egypt, Muslim radicals attack a group of mourners leaving a church, killing 1. April 9th, Nigeria, Islamists shoot 3 people in the head, Christians, including a pastor's son. April 10th, India, 2 children, 5 women are among 9 Christians attacked Are you serious? It just goes on and on and on and on. We're living in the last days. Give your life to Jesus Christ. Be saved. Be saved. Be saved.